A roadside food seller fed a homeless boy every day. But no one knew why he always sat alone on that dusty bench, with sad eyes and shaky legs, waiting for someone who never came. One day, everything changed. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to Cairo Tales for more emotional stories. Now, let's return to the little boy sitting quietly in the corner of the busy street. His name was Austin, only 6 years old, yet he carried more pain than most adults. Every morning, before the sun warmed the broken streets of Abuja, Austin stepped out of the unfinished building he called home. He whispered to himself the same thing every day. "I must find food. Mommy needs to eat." His voice was small, but his determination was strong. Inside that cold building, on a thin cloth bed, lay his mother, Vivian. Her breath was weak. Her eyes were tired. She was fighting a kidney disease that was slowly destroying her strength. Some days, she couldn't even lift her head. But whenever Austin was about to leave, she tried her best to smile. "Austin," she whispered in a soft voice, "please be careful. And come back early." "I will, Mommy," he always replied. Avery, Avery, held her hand for a few seconds. Those warm seconds gave him courage. Then, he walked out into the world again. Life wasn't always this painful for Vivian. Will be. Years ago, before Austin was born, she lived a peaceful and hopeful life. She ran a small provision shop where she sold rice, beans, bread, and small snacks. Her business wasn't huge, but it was enough. Enough to pay rent, enough to eat, enough to dream. She even had someone she loved, a young man named Gabriel. They met in school. Gabriel was calm, intelligent, and always smiling. He wanted to travel abroad to continue his studies. When he received a scholarship, he thought his dream was finally coming true. But he didn't have enough money to process his travel documents. Vivian believed in him more than anyone. She gave him almost all her savings. She held his face gently and said, "Gabriel, everything will work out. Go and build your future." He hugged her and promised, "Vivian, I will make you proud." And so, Gabriel traveled abroad. For the first 2 weeks, they talked every day. Vivian laughed whenever she heard his voice. She imagined their bright future. She imagined their home, their children, their life together. But 2 weeks later, everything changed. The calls stopped. The messages stopped. The connection disappeared. Vivian tried and tried, but nothing worked. She waited. She cried. She prayed. But no answer came. Days turned to weeks, and her heart broke a little more each time her phone stayed silent. Then one day, she began feeling sick. Weak. Strange. She went to the hospital, hoping it was stress. But the doctor looked at her carefully and said, "You are pregnant." Vivian's world froze. "Pregnant? How will I take care of this child? How will I do this alone?" She whispered, her voice shaking. But she made the decision to keep the baby. Months passed, and Austin was born, a little boy with bright eyes and a soft laugh. For a while, he brought light back into her life. She loved him more than anything. She carried him everywhere she went, tied with a cloth on her back. She worked hard, but slowly, life became harder. When Austin turned 3, Vivian grew extremely sick. She fainted in her shop one morning, and neighbors rushed her to the hospital. That was when they told her she had kidney failure. Her world fell apart. Treatment was expensive. Too expensive. She didn't have money. She didn't have help. She felt alone in the world. Her business collapsed. Her bills grew. She sold her shop, sold her belongings, borrowed money, begged for support. But it was never enough. Not even close. Soon, She couldn't pay rent. The landlord threw them out. With no place to go, she and Austin moved into an unfinished building, cold, empty, unsafe. Vivian tried to stay strong, but her body was losing the battle. And so, little Austin became her only hope. At just 6 years old, he stepped into a world filled with rejection. He walked through crowded streets every day, asking strangers for help. "Please, Auntie, small help," he whispered. Some ignored him. Some shouted at him. Some stared like he was invisible. A few looked at him with pity, but even they walked away. Each rejection hit him like a heavy stone, but he didn't stop. His mother needed him. Her body was weak. Her voice was fading. If he didn't find food, she would starve. One hot afternoon, after hours of walking under the burning sun, Austin felt like his legs would give up. His stomach hurt. His eyes stung with tears, but he refused to cry. Crying wouldn't help. He whispered again, "Mommy must eat. I must find something." He wiped his eyes and kept walking. Slowly, painfully. Then he smelled something warm. Food. His head lifted. The smell came from a small roadside food shop, with smoke rising from a pot. Austin walked closer, step by step, as if afraid someone would push him away. He saw a wooden bench and sat down quietly. He didn't speak. He just waited, hoping, praying. Inside the shop, a young woman named Nora was washing plates. She was 25, tired, and struggling with her own life. Her small shop was her only source of income. Her rent was high. Her problems were many. But even with all this, she had a soft heart. And that soft heart was about to notice the hungry little boy sitting outside her shop. This moment, the moment when their paths crossed, was the beginning of something none of them expected. Something big. Something powerful. Something that would change their lives forever. Nora wiped her hands on her apron and glanced toward the wooden bench outside. For a moment, she thought the sun was playing tricks on her eyes. But no, it was really a child. A small boy, sitting alone. Silent. Almost too still. "Who is he?" she whispered to herself. There was something about him that made her heart pause. Maybe it was the way he held his hands together. Or maybe it was the sadness in his eyes. She stepped closer, studying him carefully. He didn't look dangerous. He didn't look like a troublemaker. He looked hungry. She walked slowly toward him and bent a little so she could meet his eyes. "Hello," she said softly. "My name is Nora. What's your name?" The boy looked up. His eyes were tired but innocent. "Austin," he whispered. If you're enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to Cairo Tales for more emotional stories like this. Nora gave a small smile. "Austin, why are you sitting here alone? Are you waiting for someone?" He shook his head and looked down again. For a few seconds, he said nothing. Then he rubbed his fingers together and spoke in a shaky voice. I'm hungry." Those 3 words cut straight into Nora's heart. She didn't ask any more questions. She didn't want to embarrass him. She simply walked back inside her shop, took a clean plate, and filled it with warm food. Rice, stew, and a small piece of fish, more than enough for a little boy. When she returned outside, she placed the plate gently in front of him. "Here, Austin. Eat." Austin looked shocked. For a moment, he didn't move, almost like he couldn't believe the food was really for him. Soon he was eating faster, but not like someone greedy, more like someone who didn't know when they would get food again. Nora stood quietly and watched. Her chest tightened. What kind of life was this boy living? Who was taking care of him? Why did he look so lost? After he finished, he wiped his mouth with his small hands. "Thank you," he whispered, as if afraid to speak louder. Nora nodded gently. "You can come back anytime, okay?" Austin looked at her with wide eyes, surprised by her kindness. He nodded quickly, then stood up and walked away. As he disappeared into the distance, Nora felt something strange, like the boy had left a mark on her heart. She didn't know why, but she felt she would see him again. She didn't know how right she was. The next morning, Austin stepped out of the unfinished building again. Vivian lay weak on the floor, barely able to move. She tried to smile when she saw him, but her voice cracked. "Be careful, Austin." "I will, Mommy," he said, touching her hand gently. He wished he could stay, but hunger was stronger than feelings. He needed to find food for both of them. The sun was hot that day. The roads were loud. Austin walked from one stranger to another. "Please, sir." "Small help," he whispered. A man waved him away. "Go," another said sharply. Some people didn't even look at him. Some frowned at him like he was doing something wrong. A few stared at him with pity, but no one helped. Rejection after rejection hit him like tiny stones. His legs felt heavy, but he didn't stop. Hours passed. His stomach hurt. He felt weak. He wanted to cry, but he didn't let a single tear fall. He wiped his face with the back of his hand and whispered again, "Mommy must eat. I must find something." Then a thought flashed in his mind. The kind woman from yesterday. Nora. She gave him food without shouting, without asking anything, without pushing him away. Should he go back? Would she help again? He didn't know. He was scared to disturb her, but he had no choice. Hope was all he had left, so he turned and slowly walked toward her shop. Meanwhile, inside the shop, Nora was moving from table to table. She served food, cleared plates, wiped the counters, but every few minutes, her eyes wandered to the road outside. Where is that little boy? She wondered. Is he okay? Did he eat anything today? The morning passed. Afternoon came. Still no sign of Austin. Nora felt restless, her heart strangely heavy. She kept imagining his tired face, his small hands, his soft voice saying, "I'm hungry." She shook her head and tried to focus on her work, but her mind refused to stay calm. By evening, the sun softened. Shadows stretched across the road. Then she saw it. A small figure in the distance, walking slowly. His steps were weak. His arms hung down. His legs looked shaky. But he was coming toward her shop. Austin. When he reached the front of the shop, he tried to act normal, like he wasn't there for food. He pretended to look around casually, but Nora could see the truth on his face. The boy was starving. She rushed out quickly. "Austin," she said gently. "Come inside." He hesitated. I didn't want to disturb you." Nora shook her head. "You are not disturbing me. Come." She guided him inside and gave him another plate of warm food. Austin ate slowly this time, maybe because he was too tired. Nora watched quietly. She didn't ask questions. She didn't want to make him feel small. When he finished, she whispered, "Do you have someone waiting for you at home?" Austin nodded slowly. "My mommy, she is sick. She can't walk." Nora felt her heart drop. "Is she okay?" Austin looked at the plate and whispered, "She is not okay. That's why I must find food." Nora placed her hand gently on his shoulder, and the boy looked up at her with eyes full of sadness and innocence. In that moment, something inside Nora made a promise. She would help this boy. She didn't know how. She didn't know why. But she knew she had to. She didn't know that this decision, this small act of kindness, would connect her to a past she never knew. And soon, 4 black SUVs would arrive at her small shop, changing everything forever. Austin walked home with slow steps, holding the small pack of leftover food Nora had wrapped for him. His legs felt weak, but his heart felt a little lighter. He kept whispering, "Mommy will eat today. Mommy will eat today." The evening sun touched the broken walls of the unfinished building as he reached the entrance. He pushed the wooden board aside and stepped inside quietly. Vivian lay on the floor, her breathing soft and slow. When she heard his steps, she opened her eyes with effort. "Austin, you're back," she whispered. "Yes, Mommy, I brought food." His voice held a mix of pride and sadness. He opened the wrap and gently fed her first. Vivian ate slowly, her body trembling with every bite. She wanted to smile, but tears filled her eyes. She hated that her little boy had to work so hard for something so basic, food. After she finished eating, she touched his cheek softly. "Thank you, my son. You are my strength." Austin lay beside her, resting his head on her arm. He wished things could be different. He wished his mother could stand again, work again, laugh again. But life had pushed them too far down. All he could do was try. The next morning, he woke up early as usual. Vivian looked even weaker. Her breath sounded rough. Austin held her hand. "I'll come back fast," he said. Vivian nodded. "Be safe." He stepped out again, joining the busy roads filled with people who never noticed children like him. The heat hit him quickly. He walked from one stranger to another. "Please, Auntie, I'm hungry," he whispered. "Go away," someone said without looking. "Stop disturbing people," another man snapped. Austin swallowed the pain and kept walking. He went toward a woman near a shop entrance, but she raised her hand sharply before he could speak. "No, don't come near me," she said. He stepped back quietly, but the memory of Nora's smile gave him strength. Even if the world pushed him away, at least one person had treated him like a human being. So he turned his small body toward her shop again. Meanwhile, Nora had barely slept the previous night. She kept thinking about Austin, his tired face, his tiny hands, his soft voice. She didn't understand why she felt such a strong connection to him, but she couldn't stop worrying. As she prepared for the morning customers, she looked outside again and again, hoping to see a small, familiar figure. When Austin finally appeared at the corner of the road, Nora felt relief wash over her chest. He was walking slowly, almost dragging his feet. She rushed out before he reached the shop. "Austin," she called. He lifted his head weakly. When she reached him, she placed her hand on his shoulder. "Come inside. Sit down. You look tired." Austin tried to smile. "I'm okay," he whispered. But he wasn't okay. Nora could see it in his eyes. She brought him a bowl of warm porridge first, something light and easy to swallow. He ate silently, giving a small "thank you." After each bite, Nora watched him closely. "Where do you live, Austin?" she asked softly. He looked down, unsure if he should answer. "It's okay," she said gently. "You don't have to tell me if you're scared." He nodded slowly. "We live in an old building. My mommy can't walk. She's sick. Very sick." Nora felt a sharp pain in her chest. "Your mommy is alone?" "Yes," he said. "She lies on the floor. Always." Something inside Nora broke when she heard that. She couldn't imagine a sick woman lying helpless in a cold, empty building with no one but a 6-year-old child to take care of her. She touched his hand carefully. "Austin, can I meet your mother?" she asked quietly. Austin froze. No one had ever asked him that. He didn't know if he should say yes. He didn't want strangers to judge his mother or their home. But he trusted Nora. She was the only one who had shown him kindness. He nodded slowly. "Okay," he whispered. Nora stood up immediately. "Let me get some food for her too." She packed some warm rice, stew, and boiled water. Then she walked outside with Austin guiding her. The road to the unfinished building was rough and dusty. People looked at them curiously as they passed, wondering why a grown woman was following a business small boy through broken paths. Nora didn't care. Her mind was focused on the woman she was about to meet, the mother fighting to stay alive. When they reached the entrance of the unfinished building, Austin pushed the wooden board aside. The air inside was cold and heavy. Nora stepped in carefully. She saw broken blocks, dust, and darkness. Then she saw a weak woman lying on a thin cloth bed near the corner. Vivian opened her eyes slowly. Mommy, this is Auntie Nora, Austin said softly. Nora stepped closer. Mommy, Mommy, Mommy. When Vivian tried to sit up, her body shook. Nora quickly helped her. Vivian's face was pale, her arms thin, her eyes tired but gentle. I'm sorry. For my condition, Vivian whispered. You don't have to be sorry, Nora said softly. Austin told me you're sick. Vivian nodded. Kidneys. Failure. I can't work anymore. Nora placed the food beside her. You need strength first. Eat something. Vivian tried to speak, but tears filled her eyes. Thank you. I don't know how to repay you. Nora shook her head. You don't need to repay me. Let me help you. Vivian slowly took a bite, her hands trembling. Austin watched with hopeful eyes. Seeing his mother eat made him smile for the first time that day. Nora looked around the empty room again. She couldn't believe a sick woman and a child lived like this. This is not right, she whispered to herself. She didn't know how, but she knew she had to do something. Something big. Something more than giving food. She didn't know that soon, her life, Austin's life, and Vivian's life would connect to someone they never expected. A man searching for a lost love. A man with power, money, and a broken heart. A man who would soon arrive in 4 black SUVs. And that moment would change everything. Vivian ate slowly, taking small bites, as if she had forgotten what it felt like to taste real food. Nora watched her with a gentle expression, feeling her heart tighten each time the woman's weak hands shook. Austin sat close to his mother, his eyes following every move she made, praying she would gain strength. You're very kind, Vivian whispered after swallowing a small spoonful. I don't meet many kind people anymore. Nora smiled softly. Kindness should not disappear from the world. Not when people like you need it. Vivian lowered her head. I used to be strong. I used to work hard. But now, her voice cracked. Now I am only a burden on my little boy. Austin shook his head quickly. No, Mommy. You're not a burden. Vivian touched his cheek with a trembling hand. You are too young to carry this weight. Nora sat on the floor beside them, the dirt and dust sticking to her clothes. She didn't care. Something inside her refused to leave this broken family alone. You are not a burden, she said gently. Illness is not your fault. And Austin, he is not alone anymore. Her words made Vivian look up in confusion. Why? Why would you care for us? Nora paused for a moment, trying to find the right words. Because someone needs to, she said softly. Because no child should be roaming the streets for food, and no mother should be lying helpless like this. Vivian's eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they were tears of relief. Tears that came from feeling seen after many years of being invisible. Nora helped her eat more, little by little. When Vivian finished, she closed her eyes and rested her head back against the wall. Austin covered her with their thin cloth and looked at Nora. Thank you, he said, his voice small but sincere. Nora placed her hand gently on his shoulder. Austin, starting today, you and your mother are not alone. I'll bring food every day. I'll check on both of you, I promise. Austin looked at her with wide eyes, almost as if he couldn't believe the words. In his whole life, ever promised him anything. He smiled just a little, but it was a smile filled with hope. Nora left the unfinished building with a heavy heart. As she walked back to her shop, she kept thinking about the woman and her son. She thought about the darkness inside that building, the coldness of the floor, and the fear Austin must feel every day. "It's not fair," she whispered to herself. "They deserve better." She worked the rest of the day with a distracted mind. Even customers noticed she was quieter than usual. She kept replaying what she saw: Vivian's weak body, her trembling voice, Austin's tired little face. She knew she had to keep helping them, no matter how hard her own life was. When evening came, she closed her shop early and prepared extra food for the next morning. She cooked rice, boiled water, and saved some stew. She placed them carefully in containers. The next day, she woke up before sunrise. She packed the food and hurried toward the unfinished building. Austin was waiting at the entrance, sitting on a stone. "Auntie Nora," he said happily when he saw her. Nora knelt and hugged him gently. "Good morning, Austin. How is Mommy today?" "She is awake," he said, "but still weak." Nora went inside. Vivian was sitting up this time, leaning against the wall. Her smile was tired but warm. "You came," she whispered. "I told you I would," Nora replied. She gave Vivian the warm food and helped her take small bites again. Austin stood close, watching them with quiet relief. After Vivian finished eating, Nora carefully prepared some small portions for later. Austin looked at them gratefully. "You're like an angel," Vivian whispered. Nora shook her head. "No, I'm just someone who believes in helping." Vivian lowered her eyes. "I wish I could repay you someday." Nora smiled. "Don't think about that now. Think about getting better." But even as Nora said these words, she knew inside that recovery was not easy. Kidney failure required money. A lot of money. Doctors, treatment, dialysis, things Vivian could never afford. She wanted to help, but how far could she go? She wasn't rich. Her shop barely covered her rent. But she couldn't walk away now. She had made a promise to Austin, and she meant it. As days passed, Nora visited them every morning and evening. She brought food, water, and warm cloths. Sometimes she stayed to talk with Vivian. Sometimes she helped Austin wash his clothes or clean the floor. Little by little, they became like a small family. But outside their tiny world, something else was happening. Far away, in a large mansion at the other end of the city, a man sat with worry written all over his face. Gabriel, the man who once promised to return to Vivian. The man who lost contact with her. The man who didn't know he had a son. He was rich, now very rich. Cars, bodyguards, big business deals. He had everything he once dreamed of. But what he didn't have was peace. He kept thinking about the woman he loved, and the sudden silence that tore them apart. He asked his driver to search for her, to search every corner of Abuja, but every answer was the same. "Sir, no one knows her." Gabriel's heart grew heavier each day. He had no idea Vivian was battling illness. No idea she had given birth to his child. No idea they were suffering in a cold, unfinished building. Nora didn't know it either. Austin didn't know the truth. Vivian tried to forget it. But destiny was already moving all of them closer, closer than they ever imagined. A storm was coming. A truth was coming. And soon, 4 black SUVs would begin their journey toward Nora's small roadside shop. SUVs carrying a man who was about to discover everything he lost, and everything he still had. Days passed, and Nora continued visiting the unfinished building where Austin and his mother lived. Each morning before opening her shop, she carried warm food, clean, water, and sometimes even small fruits if she could afford them. She didn't have much, but she shared whatever she had. And every time she stepped into that dark room, Austin's face lit up with hope, and Vivian's tired eyes softened with gratitude. Nora had no idea how deeply she was becoming part of their lives. She didn't realize that her presence had become the only light in their long, painful days. She only knew one thing: she couldn't ignore their suffering. Not when a child was fighting alone to keep his mother alive. One afternoon, Nora sat beside Vivian after giving her a warm meal. "How long have you been sick?" she asked gently. Vivian took a slow breath. "It's been a few years. It started when Austin was small. At first, I thought it was stress. But then, I fainted, and the doctors said my kidneys were failing. I tried to work, but my body grew weaker. Slowly, I lost everything." Nora's heart ached. "Did you have no one to help you?" "No. Family?" Vivian shook her head. "Most of my family is gone. And Gabriel." Her voice trailed off. Nora leaned closer. "Gabriel?" Vivian closed her eyes. "Austin's father." Austin, who was sitting on the floor drawing shapes in the dust with his tiny finger, looked up curiously when he heard the name. He knew his father's name, but didn't know the story. Nora waited quietly. Vivian spoke softly, her voice shaking. "We loved each other. He had a big dream to study abroad. I helped him with all my savings. When he traveled, we talked every day. For 2 weeks. Then suddenly, nothing. His phone stopped working. His messages never came through. I thought maybe something happened to him. I cried every night. I didn't know I was pregnant until a month later." Nora touched her arm gently. "You must have felt so alone." "I did," Vivian whispered. "But when Austin was born, I felt hope again. He was my blessing. He still is. But life became harder, and I couldn't provide the way I wanted. When my kidneys got worse, I had to choose between food and medicine. And slowly, I lost that battle." Nora felt her eyes sting. This woman had been through so much, far more than she ever admitted. She reached for Vivian's hand. "You are strong," Nora said softly. "Stronger than you know." Vivian gave a weak smile. "I'm only surviving because of Austin. And now because of you." Austin moved closer, placing his small hand on his mother's. His touch was gentle, full of love. "Mommy, when you get better, I will buy you a big house," he said, trying to sound brave. Vivian pulled him close and kissed his head. "My sweet boy. Your love is enough for me." Nora watched them silently, her chest heavy with emotion. She couldn't imagine how a man could leave a woman like Vivian, kind, gentle, brave, to face the world alone. She didn't know the truth. She didn't know that Gabriel never abandoned Vivian. She didn't know he had lost his phone, his contacts, his entire connection to her. She didn't know he had spent years trying to trace the past he lost. But destiny doesn't forget. Outside their small world, something massive was happening. Far across the city, Gabriel stood in front of the large glass window of his mansion, looking down at the busy streets below. The city lights reflected in his eyes, but his heart felt empty. His driver entered quietly. "1. Sir, we checked the last hospital on the list today. No one knows a woman named Vivian." Gabriel rubbed his forehead. "Keep searching. We must find her." "Yes, sir." The driver nodded. When the driver left, Gabriel sat down heavily on the sofa. He picked up a photo frame, an old picture of him and Vivian, smiling together in their school uniforms. It was worn out, but he kept it safe. It was the only thing that gave him hope. "Vivian," he whispered, "I wish I could tell you. I never forgot you. I wish I could tell you I tried to reach you every day. I wish." His voice broke. "I wish I knew where you are." He didn't know she was lying on a cold floor, eating one meal a day. He didn't know she was dying slowly, piece by piece. He didn't know she had given birth to his son, his only child. But he was about to find out. Fate was moving silently, connecting the broken pieces. And soon, every truth would unfold. Back in the unfinished building, Austin stood outside for a moment, looking at the sky. He whispered softly, "God, please help my mommy." His voice was filled with innocence, but also with pain no child should carry. Nora walked out with him, holding the empty plates. "Austin," she asked gently, "do you go to school?" He shook his head. "No. I have to stay with Mommy. And I have to find food." Nora's heart tightened again. "Every child deserves school," she whispered. Austin shrugged, as if he had already accepted his fate. "Maybe one day. Minus today. Nora. 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 Nora." Nora knelt in front of him. "Austin, I don't know how or when, but I will make sure your life becomes better." He looked at her with eyes full of trust. "I believe you, Auntie Nora." That moment sealed something between them, something like family, something life-changing. Nora walked him back inside and hugged Vivian before leaving. "Rest, okay? I will come in the evening." Vivian nodded. "Thank you for everything." As Nora left the building, she didn't know someone miles away had just made a decision that would change all their lives. Gabriel had finally found a small clue, something that would lead him toward the right direction. And when he began his journey in his black SUV, accompanied by 3 more, he had no idea he was driving straight toward the little roadside shop, where Austin washed plates, where Nora served food, where destiny waited. 4 black SUVs, 1 small food shop, 3 broken lives ready to collide. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with soft shades of orange and pink. Nora returned to her shop after visiting Austin and Vivian, but her heart was no longer just focused on her work. Every plate she washed, every customer she served, every minute that passed her mind drifted back to the broken building where the boy and his sick mother struggled to survive. She couldn't understand why she cared so much. Maybe it was because she saw something of herself in them. Maybe it was because she had tasted struggle too. Or maybe it was simply because kindness has a way of choosing hearts without warning. Whatever the reason, Nora knew she wasn't going to walk away. Meanwhile, Austin sat beside his mother inside the unfinished building. The little portion of evening light that entered through the broken window made the room look both sad and peaceful. Vivian rested with her eyes closed, breathing slowly. Austin held her hand gently, tracing circles with his thumb, the way she used to do when he was a toddler. "Mommy," he whispered, "Auntie Nora says you will get better." Vivian opened her eyes and looked at her son. "She is kind," she whispered. "But some things, some sickness, they don't go away easily." Austin shook his head fiercely. "You will get better. I know it." Vivian tried to smile, but her eyes filled with tears. She wished she could promise him that. She wished she could give him a future where he didn't have to beg strangers for food. But reality was cruel, and hope felt far away. She placed her hand on his cheek, her voice trembling. "My son, one day, when you grow up, be kind to people, even when the world is not kind to you." Austin nodded softly. "Like Auntie Nora." "One." Vivian smiled weakly. "Yes, exactly like her." Austin promised her with all his heart. As the night deepened, the city grew quieter. But in Gabriel's mansion, things were far from calm. He stood in his large office, staring at a map spread across his desk. His driver entered again. "Sir, we found something," the driver announced. Gabriel turned quickly. "What is it?" "An old neighbor from your past university area remembers a woman named Vivian. She said she used to run a small provision shop, but it closed years ago." Gabriel's heart skipped a beat. "Did she say why?" "No, sir. But she believes Vivian had health problems and may have moved to a cheaper part of the city." Gabriel sat down heavily, his chest tightening. "Health problems?" he whispered. The driver nodded. "Yes, sir." Gabriel felt a sudden fear rise inside him. The idea of Vivian suffering, maybe alone, maybe with a child, made him feel sick. He rubbed his hands together nervously. "Find every clinic and small hospital in the lower areas," he said firmly. "Find out if any woman named Vivian came there for treatment." "Yes, sir." The driver left, and Gabriel leaned back in his chair. His mind was racing. He didn't know how many years he had lost. He didn't know what had happened to her. But he knew one thing clearly. He was not giving up. Not again. Back at the roadside, Nora closed her shop for the night. She packed 2 extra meals for the next morning, double-checking each container. She didn't have extra money, but she felt calmer preparing food for Vivian and Austin than she did earning from customers. Once she was done, she locked her small shop and walked home. Her house was tiny, but compared to the dark corner where Vivian lived, it felt like a palace. She sat on her bed, thinking again. "I must find a way to help her," she whispered to herself. "This cannot continue." Nora had always dreamed of becoming a nurse someday. She wanted to help people. She wanted to help people. But life had pushed her into struggling for basic needs instead. Still, she hadn't forgotten that dream. And today, seeing Vivian made her wish she had been one already. She imagined Vivian lying in a real hospital bed, with doctors around her. She imagined Austin going to school, holding books instead of empty plates. She imagined a life where both of them smiled freely. She lay down, staring at the ceiling, and prayed silently. "God, please show me a way." The next morning, Nora walked to the unfinished building at sunrise. Austin was waiting outside again. But today, he looked different, more worried, more restless. "Austin?" Nora asked. "What happened?" He pointed toward the inside. "Mommy." She couldn't sleep. She kept shaking. Nora rushed inside. Vivian lay curled up, her face pale, her breath shallow. Nora knelt beside her, panic rising in her chest. "Vivian, can you hear me?" Vivian opened her eyes slowly. I'm fine," she whispered weakly. "No, you're not," Nora said. "You need a doctor." Vivian shook her head. "I have no money. They won't treat me." Nora looked at her firmly. "Leave the money to me. You need help." "But," Vivian grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "Please, don't take me to a hospital. They will keep me there, and Austin will be alone. I can't leave him." Nora felt her throat close. "Vivian, you could die." Vivian closed her eyes. "If it keeps my son safe, then that's okay." "No." Nora shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. "That is not okay. You cannot give up." Austin began to cry quietly, holding his mother's arm. "Mommy, please, don't say that." Vivian touched his cheek gently. "My sweet boy. I am trying." Nora felt something break inside her. She stood up abruptly, wiping her tears. "I'm coming back. I will find help." She walked out quickly, her heart pounding. She didn't know where to go, but she knew she had to try. She couldn't let Vivian die like this, not while she was alive to do something. What Nora didn't know was that at that exact moment, across the city, Gabriel was receiving the information he had been searching for information that would soon lead him straight to Austin's mother. 2 different lives, 2 different journeys. But fate was pulling them closer with every passing hour. And very soon, 4 black SUVs would drive through the dusty roads toward Nora's small shop, bringing truth, pain, and miracles, all at once. Nora rushed through the busy street, her heart beating fast as she tried to think of a solution. The morning sun had barely risen, yet the roads were already crowded. People shouted, cars honked, and shop owners prepared for the day, but Nora's mind was only focused on one thing. Vivian was getting worse. She reached her small food shop and unlocked the door quickly. Her hands were shaking as she set down the food containers she had packed earlier. She couldn't ignore the truth anymore. Vivian needed real medical help. Not just warm food and boiled water. But help needed money, and money was something Nora didn't have. What should I do? She whispered to herself. She sat on the wooden stool inside her shop, breathing heavily. Her rent was due soon. Her shop barely earned enough to support her own life. She wanted to help Austin and Vivian, but how far could she go? How much could she carry alone? Yet every time she pictured Austin's small face, every time she remembered Vivian's shaking hands, she felt something deep inside her say, "Do not give up." Nora stood up slowly and wiped her eyes. "If I cannot give them money," she said softly, "I will find someone who can." She didn't know who or how, but she knew she had to try. Just then, a customer arrived. Nora forced a smile and served him quickly. But even while handing food, her mind wasn't in the shop. Her thoughts were racing, searching for a miracle. Meanwhile, in the unfinished building, Austin sat beside his mother, tears drying on his cheeks. Vivian breathed slowly, her body weak, but she held his hand tightly. "I'm sorry, Austin," she whispered. "I didn't want you to see me like this." Austin wiped her forehead gently. "It's okay, Mommy. Auntie Nora will help." She said she would. Vivian smiled faintly. "She is kind." Austin nodded. "Follow. Follow. 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 She will save you. I know she will." Vivian wished she had the same confidence. She wished she could neither promise him the world. But reality was cruel, and she felt like her body was fading faster with each passing hour. She touched Austin's hair and whispered, "You are my strength, my little hero." Austin rested his head on her chest, listening to her shaky heartbeat. He was too young to understand death, but he was old enough to know that something terrible was happening. Across the city, Gabriel was preparing to leave his mansion. He stood in front of the mirror, adjusting his jacket. But his eyes looked tired. Tired of searching. Tired of waiting. Tired of the guilt he couldn't escape. His driver knocked on the door. "Sir, we found a record." Gabriel turned sharply. "A record?" "Yes," the driver said. "A private clinic in a rural area treated a woman named Vivian months ago." Gabriel's heart stopped for a moment. "Is she still there?" "We don't know," the driver answered. "But the nurse said the woman was very sick. She couldn't afford treatment, so she stopped coming." Gabriel felt his chest tighten painfully. Why didn't she reach out? Why didn't she find him? Why had life been so cruel to her? "Take me there," he said quietly. "Yes, sir." Within minutes, Gabriel was walking toward his black SUV. 3 security vehicles followed behind, their engines humming like a warning to the world. He didn't care about appearances. He didn't care about the noise. He cared only about one thing: finding Vivian. As the cars drove through the city, Gabriel stared out the window, his mind replaying old memories. Vivian laughing in their university yard. Vivian helping him study late at night. Vivian handing him her savings, saying, "Go chase your dreams." He didn't know she had carried his child. He didn't know she had gone through pregnancy alone. He didn't know she had suffered for years. But he was going to find out soon. Back on the other side of Abuja, Nora closed her shop for a moment and walked outside. The sun was getting hotter, and sweat rolled down her back. She leaned against a tree and sighed deeply. "Think, Nora, think," she whispered. Just then, a familiar small voice called, "Auntie Nora." She turned and saw Austin running toward her. His steps were small, but filled with urgency. His face was pale, and his eyes looked scared. "Austin? What happened?" Nora asked, kneeling in front of him. "Mommy, she's not breathing well," Austin said, catching his breath. "She keeps closing her eyes." "I'm scared." Nora felt a jolt of panic run through her body. She grabbed her bag instantly. Come, take me to her. They ran together toward the unfinished building. When Nora entered, her heart twisted painfully. Vivian was shaking, her eyes half open, her breath shallow. Vivian! Nora rushed to her side. Stay with me. Stay awake. Vivian tried to speak, but her voice was barely a whisper. Nora, thank you. For everything. No, Nora said firmly. Do not talk like that. We're going to get you help. Vivian shook her head weakly. I don't want Austin to be alone. Nora held her hand tightly. He won't be. I promise you. Austin stood beside them, crying softly. Mommy, please. Nora looked at both of them and made a decision she should have made long ago. We're going to the clinic, she said. Right now. Vivian tried to protest, but Nora didn't listen. She wrapped her arm around Vivian carefully and helped her stand. Vivian cried out in pain, but Nora didn't let go. She looked at Austin. Hold her other hand. Austin nodded quickly. Together, they slowly walked out of the building. Each step filled with fear and hope mixed together. But none of them knew. Right at that moment, 4 black SUVs were entering the same rural area, driving down the same dusty roads, heading toward Nora's shop. Fate was moving closer. Destiny was about to burst open. And lives were about to collide in a way none of them expected. Nora and Austin struggled to support Vivian as they walked through the broken path outside the unfinished building. Vivian leaned heavily on them, her breath shaking, her steps unsteady. Every few seconds, she stopped, holding her stomach or chest, trying not to collapse. Austin kept whispering, Mommy, don't give up, please. Nora held her tighter. We're almost there, just a little more. The small clinic was not close, but Nora didn't care how far it was. She was determined to get Vivian help somehow. People stared at them as they passed, some with pity, some with judgment, and some with empty curiosity. But none of them offered to help. Austin's small hands gripped his mother's arm with all the strength he had. His eyes were full of fear, but he kept going. Mommy, stay awake, he pleaded softly. Vivian could barely whisper. I'm trying, my son. When they finally reached the clinic, Nora pushed open the wooden door. A tired-looking nurse glanced up from the counter. The clinic was small, with old fans spinning slowly, a cracked wall behind the reception desk, and a few plastic chairs arranged unevenly. Please, Nora said breathlessly. She needs help. She can't breathe well. The nurse stood up quickly and came around to help. Bring her inside. They guided Vivian into the nearest room. The nurse checked her pulse, then her breathing, then her eyes. Her expression changed slowly from calm to worried. Her condition is serious, the nurse said. She needs proper treatment, possibly dialysis. Vivian opened her eyes weakly. No, please, I can't stay here. My son, the nurse sighed. Madam, if you don't get treatment, you may not survive. Vivian trembled and looked at Austin. I can't leave him alone. He has no one. Nora stepped forward immediately. He is not alone. I'm here. Vivian shook her head, tears streaming down her face. You are too kind, Nora. But this is not your burden. Nora held her hand. It is not a burden. It is a responsibility. And I don't run away from responsibility. Austin moved closer and hugged his mother's arm tightly. Please stay, Mommy. Please, Vivian cried silently, torn between fear of dying and fear of leaving her child in a world that never cared about him. The nurse gently touched her shoulder. Madam, please let us help you. Vivian nodded slowly, defeated by her body's weakness. Okay, I will stay. Nora exhaled in relief and helped settle her onto the narrow clinic bed. Austin wiped his tears, trying to be strong even though he felt scared. Nora moved to him and knelt down. Austin, your mother is safe now, she said softly. The nurse will take care of her. and I will stay with you." Austin looked at her with grateful eyes. "Thank you, Auntie Nora." Nora hugged him tightly. "Everything will be okay." But deep inside, she wasn't sure. She knew the clinic would eventually ask for money. She knew the treatment was expensive. She knew her own savings were small. But she didn't want Austin to see her fear. The nurse walked out and closed the door behind them. "We will monitor her," she said. "But you need to prepare for the costs." Nora swallowed hard. "We'll manage." The nurse nodded, though she could see the worry in Nora's eyes. Meanwhile, far across the dusty roads of the rural area, Gabriel's 4 black SUVs were slowly approaching the same region. The air around them filled with engine noise and dust clouds. People on the roadside stared in surprise as the convoy passed. It was rare to see such cars in this poor part of the city. Inside the first SUV, Gabriel looked anxious. His driver spoke from the front seat. "Sir," the nurse said, "the woman left the clinic months ago. She may be living in this area." Gabriel's heart raced. "Drive slowly. Stop at every small shop or stand. Ask questions." "Yes, sir." The vehicles continued deeper into the area, moving past broken houses, small shops, and dusty roads. Gabriel looked out of the window, searching every face, every corner. His mind kept repeating, "Vivian, where are you?" The convoy approached a small roadside food shop with smoke rising from a pot. Nora's shop. Gabriel noticed it immediately. "Stop here," he said. All 4 SUVs stopped at the same moment, their engines humming like a warning. People on the street turned to look, whispering among themselves. It was unusual, almost dramatic to see such vehicles in this area. Gabriel stepped out of the car. His tall figure, clean clothes, and serious face made everyone stare. But he didn't care. He looked around, scanning every detail, every shadow. Then he saw something. A small bucket of soapy water, a few plates, and a wooden bench. His heart beat faster. Someone was washing plates here. He said quietly. The driver nodded. "Yes, sir." Gabriel looked at the pot of food, still cooking slowly. Nora had left it when she rushed to the clinic with Austin. Gabriel stepped closer to the shop, examining everything. "She must be helping someone," he whispered. "Vivian used to do that too." He didn't know how true that thought was. He didn't know that the woman he was searching for, the woman he still loved, the woman who carried his child, was lying in a clinic bed only minutes away. Back at the clinic, Vivian's breathing steadied slightly, but she was still weak. Nora sat beside Austin, holding his hand, trying to give him courage. The nurse walked in with a concerned look. "We need to send for medicine," she said. "It will cost money." Nora nodded slowly. She didn't have enough, but she would find a way. She had to. Just then, the clinic door opened slowly, letting in a warm gust of outside air. 2 lives. Nora and Austin looked up. Someone was about to enter. Someone whose arrival would change everything. Someone who had been searching for years. And only minutes away, Gabriel was walking toward the clinic, guided by fate itself. 4 SUVs. One truth. A reunion that nobody expected. The roads of destiny were finally crossing. The air around the small clinic felt heavy, almost like something powerful was about to happen. Austin sat quietly on a wooden chair beside his mother's bed, holding her weak hand. Vivian's breathing was slow but steady, and though her eyes were closed, she was fighting to stay alive for her son. Nora stood near the doorway, her heart filled with fear and hope at the same time. She kept whispering to herself, "Please let her get better. Please." Outside, the dusty road stirred as Gabriel's convoy moved closer. The strong engines of the 4 SUVs echoed through the quiet neighborhood. People stepped aside, whispering in surprise, staring at the powerful vehicles that didn't belong in a place like this. Nora didn't know that the sound outside was connected to everything happening here. She didn't know that the man searching for Vivian was only moments away. She only felt unease when she heard the rumbling engines coming closer and closer. Inside the clinic, Austin looked at his mother's pale face with worried eyes. "Mommy, are you okay?" he whispered. Vivian opened her eyes slowly, forcing a small smile. "I'm trying, my son." Austin wiped her forehead gently. "Thanks for watching. I don't forget to enter said. Rate 19.9. Vivian opened her eyes slowly. Raiden. Vivian opened her eyes slowly. "Auntie Nora says you will get better. She won't leave us." Vivian's smile was weak. "She is good. Too good." Nora walked over and touched Vivian's hand. "Don't talk like that. You will get through this. I promise." Vivian looked at her, her voice barely audible. "You've done too much for us already." Nora shook her head. "There's no such thing as too much when someone needs help." Vivian's eyes filled with tears. "I wish the world had more. People like you." Nora squeezed her hand gently. "Rest now. Save your strength." Austin leaned his head against his mother's arm, still holding her hand tightly. His small body trembled, but he tried not to cry. He didn't want to scare her. Outside, Gabriel stepped out of the SUV as the driver guided him toward the clinic. The dusty air blew against his suit, and people watched him with curiosity. His heart was pounding. He didn't know what he would find inside. He didn't know if Vivian was alive. He didn't know if she remembered him. He didn't even know she had carried his child. But he was ready to face whatever truth waited for him. He was ready to mend. "Sir," the driver said, pointing at the small building. "This is the clinic the nurse mentioned." Gabriel stared at the old, cracked walls, the rusty sign, and the broken windows. His breath caught in his throat. "She came here?" he whispered. "Yes, sir." Gabriel felt his hands shake. He stepped closer, walking slowly, toward the door. Every step felt heavier than the last. Every memory rushed back. Vivian's smile, her laughter, her voice. Inside the clinic, Nora turned when she heard footsteps outside. There was something about the sound, firm, confident, heavy, that made her heart tense. She whispered to Austin, "Stay with your mother. I'll check who is coming." Austin nodded as Nora walked toward the entrance. Gabriel pushed the door open gently. The room smelled of medicine, dust, and old walls. He looked around quickly, searching for any sign, any clue. Nora froze when she saw him, his fine clothes, his sharp eyes, the fear written on his face. "Good afternoon," Nora said softly, unsure who he was. Gabriel nodded, trying to stay calm. "I'm looking for a woman named Vivian," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "Someone told me she may have been here." Nora's heart dropped. She swallowed hard. "Vivian?" she repeated slowly. Gabriel stepped closer. "Please. Do you know her? Is she here?" Nora felt her breath tremble. She looked back toward the room where Vivian lay, struggling to stay alive. She had promised to protect her. She had promised to help her. But this moment, this man, this felt different. "Yes," she whispered finally. "She's here." Gabriel's eyes widened. His breath caught in his chest. "She's here?" Nora nodded slowly. "She is very sick." Gabriel closed his eyes for a moment, fighting the pain that hit him like a wave. "I need to see her," he said, his voice breaking. "Please." Nora hesitated for only a moment. Something in his face, fear, guilt, love, told her he wasn't a stranger. He was someone important, someone from Vivian's past. She stepped aside and said softly, "Come with me." Gabriel followed her through the narrow hallway. His heart pounded so loudly he could barely hear anything else. He didn't know what he would see. He didn't know how Vivian would react. He didn't know if she would even recognize him. Nora pushed open the small door. Inside, Vivian lay on the clinic bed, her face pale, her breathing shallow. Austin sat beside her, clutching her hand tightly. Gabriel's entire world stopped. He froze in place, his mouth opened slightly. His eyes filled instantly with tears. "Vivian," he whispered, almost too soft for anyone to hear. Austin turned first. The boy stared at the tall stranger standing in the doorway. He didn't know who this man was, but something in the man's eyes, fear, pain, shock, made Austin's heart beat faster. Vivian slowly opened her eyes. She looked at Nora first, then at Austin, then at the tall figure standing near the door. Her breath caught. Her eyes widened. Her lips trembled. Gabriel?" she whispered weakly. Gabriel stepped forward, barely holding himself together. "Vivian," he whispered, tears spilling from his eyes. "It's me. I finally found you. That single moment. The past, present, and future collided. Austin looked between his mother and the stranger, confused but curious. Vivian's hand shook as she reached out. Nora watched with wide eyes, realizing she was witnessing something powerful, something destiny had been building for years. And Gabriel, the man who had searched for so long, the man who had lost everything, was finally face to face with the woman he loved. The moment was only beginning. The truth hadn't even fully opened yet. But life had finally brought them together. Gabriel moved closer to the bed, his steps slow and shaky, as if he was afraid the moment might disappear if he walked too fast. Vivian looked at him with eyes full of disbelief, pain, and a memory that had been sleeping inside her heart for years. "Gabriel," she whispered again, her voice breaking. He knelt beside her bed immediately. His hands trembled as he touched the edge of the mattress, afraid to hold her too tightly. "Vivian, I've searched for you everywhere," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I never forgot you. Not for a single day." Vivian blinked slowly, her breath uneven. What happened to you? Why did you disappear?" Gabriel closed his eyes for a moment, guilt flooding his face. "My phone was stolen 2 weeks after I arrived abroad. I lost everything. Your number, your messages, your calls. I tried for months to find a way to reach you again, but by the time I came back, you were gone. Your shop was closed. No one knew where you were." Vivian stared at him with trembling lips. "I thought you left me," she whispered. "I thought you chose a new life and forgot me." Gabriel shook his head, fiercely. "Never. You were the only reason I kept going. You gave me everything, and I failed you." Vivian felt her eyes burn with tears. All the years of pain, fear, loneliness, they pressed against her chest like a heavy weight. She felt both happy and hurt, relieved, and broken. Nora watched the two silently from the corner, her heart swelling and tightening at the same time. She now understood the deep connection between them. She now understood why Gabriel looked like a man who carried 1,000 regrets. Austin stood beside his mother, confused but curious. He looked at Gabriel with wide eyes. He didn't know who this man was, but he saw something strange, something that felt familiar. The man's eyes were soft, almost the same way his mother looked at him. Vivian slowly turned her head toward her son. "Austin, this is Gabriel," she whispered. Austin nodded politely, unsure what to say. "Good afternoon, sir." Gabriel's eyes filled with even more tears. He studied the small boy, his eyes, his mouth, the shape of his face. A shock rushed through him like electricity. "Vivian," he whispered, looking at her with trembling lips. "Is he?" Vivian nodded slowly, her eyes overflowed. "Yes, he is your son." Gabriel gasped like someone had hit him. His hand flew to his mouth. He stared at Austin again. this time with a different kind of emotion. Love, shock, guilt, joy, pain all at once. He took a shaky breath. My son? He whispered, his voice shaking. Austin stepped back a little, unsure if he should be scared or not. He looked at Nora, confused. Nora gently nodded, reassuring him. It's okay, Austin, she said softly. Gabriel sank onto his knees in front of the boy, tears falling freely now. Austin, I didn't know, he whispered. If I knew, I would have come. I would have never left you. I swear. Austin looked at him quietly. You're my father? Gabriel nodded. Yes, my boy. I am your father. Austin stared at him for a long moment, and then he whispered something so innocent and soft that it broke everyone in the room. Did you come to save my mommy? Gabriel let out a broken cry and reached forward gently, placing his hands on Austin's small shoulders. Yes, he said with all the truth in his heart. I came to save her. I will save both of you. I promise. Vivian closed her eyes, tears sliding across her cheeks. She looked like someone who had been carrying a mountain of pain for years, and just now, the mountain was finally being lifted. Nora wiped her own tears, silently. She had been carrying the weight of this family for days, not knowing the truth that tied them all together. Now she understood why fate kept pulling her toward them. They were meant to meet for this moment. Gabriel moved closer to Vivian again. Vivian, listen to me, he said firmly but gently. You're not alone anymore. I will take care of you. I will take care of Austin. I have the money, the doctors, the resources. I can fix this. Please, let me help. Vivian shook her head weakly. I'm too sick. Dialysis, surgery. It's too much. Gabriel took her hand carefully. Then let me be the one to worry about that. You carried our child alone. You suffered alone. Let me carry everything now. Vivian's tears flowed like rain. She closed her eyes and whispered, I'm scared. Gabriel leaned closer. I know, but you're not fighting alone anymore. Austin climbed onto the edge of the bed and held his mother's hand again. Mommy, he can help. Please don't give up. Vivian looked at her son, then at Gabriel, then at Nora, who stood with tears in her eyes, silently supporting all of them. For the first time in years, Vivian felt something she had forgotten. Hope. Gabriel stood up suddenly and turned to the nurse who had been standing quietly near the door, shocked by the reunion she had witnessed. Prepare everything, Gabriel said. I'm taking her to a better hospital. Right now. Nora stepped forward. Gabriel, the treatment is expensive. Are you sure? Gabriel looked at her with firm eyes. I will give her whatever she needs. Money doesn't matter. Her life does. Nora felt chills run through her body. This man, this moment, it felt like destiny itself was fixing everything that had been broken for years. Austin looked back and forth between the two adults. Are we going to be okay? He whispered. Gabriel lifted him gently and hugged him tightly. Yes, my son, from today, everything will change. Vivian watched them, her tears flowing like silent prayers. The storm that had taken everything from them was finally ending, and the sunrise of a new life was starting to show. The clinic room suddenly filled with quiet motion. Nurses rushed in and out, preparing Vivian for transport. Gabriel stood near the doorway, giving instructions with a firm, steady voice, but inside, he was trembling. He kept glancing back at Vivian as if afraid she might disappear again if he looked away for even a moment. Austin stayed close to his mother, holding her hand tightly, refusing to let go. His small fingers were cold, and he kept whispering, Mommy, we're going to a good hospital. You will get better. Daddy is here now. Vivian still wasn't used to hearing that word daddy. It felt strange, unreal, beautiful, and painful. All at once, she looked at Gabriel, trying to give him a small smile. Her lips trembled, but she managed to whisper, "I never wanted you to see me like this." Gabriel stepped closer and shook his head. "Vivian, I should have been here years ago. I should have protected you. This is not your fault. None of it." She looked down. "I thought you forgot me." His voice broke. "I never could." Nora stood quietly in the corner, watching them. She felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. She had been carrying this family's pain on her shoulders, thinking she had to solve everything alone. But now, seeing Gabriel strong, emotional, determined, made her realize she wasn't alone anymore. The nurse tapped Nora gently. "We need to move her now." "Okay," Nora said softly. Gabriel approached Austin. "My boy, stay close. We're taking Mommy to a big hospital. She'll get the best care." Austin nodded, his eyes full of trust. "I'll stay with her." They carefully lifted Vivian onto a stretcher. She gasped softly as the cold metal touched her back, but she didn't complain. She looked at her son and whispered, "Don't be scared." "I'm not," Austin whispered, even though his voice trembled. As the nurses carried the stretcher outside, the dusty road came into view. People in the neighborhood stared in shock when they saw the 4 black SUVs waiting. Children whispered. Adults pointed. They had never seen something like this: rich cars in a poor area, a woman on a stretcher, a man in fine clothes holding a child's hand. But gossip didn't matter. This was a moment years in the making. When Gabriel stepped outside with Austin, he gently guided the boy to the first SUV. "Get in with me." 1-4. 1-1, he said. Austin looked unsure. "But Mommy, she will ride in the medical vehicle behind us," Gabriel said. "We'll follow her." Austin nodded slowly and climbed into the soft leather seat. It felt different, strange, new, almost unreal. He had never sat in a car like this before. Gabriel entered the SUV and took a deep breath, still overwhelmed. Nora stood on the roadside, watching the workers load Vivian carefully into the ambulance van. Gabriel opened the door again and called out to her. "Nora!" She stepped forward quickly. "Yes? Come with us." Nora blinked. "Me?" Gabriel nodded. "You've been their guardian, their support, their angel. You're coming too." Nora hesitated for a moment, then nodded slowly. "Okay." She climbed into the SUV beside Austin, surprised by the soft seats and cold air inside. Austin leaned against her, his small body trembling slightly from the stress of the day. Nora put her arm around him. "Everything will be fine," she whispered. Gabriel watched them silently. He was beginning to understand how much Nora meant to his son. He felt grateful in a way words couldn't express. The engine started. Slowly, the powerful convoy moved forward, 4 black SUVs and 1 ambulance from the dusty road toward the city. Austin looked out the window as they passed the unfinished building where he lived. It looked smaller now, emptier, darker. He whispered, "Goodbye." Nora squeezed his hand. "You don't have to go back there ever again." Gabriel heard her words and nodded. "Never again," he said firmly. "Everything will change from today." The convoy sped down the highway, passing tall buildings, bright billboards, and busy markets. Austin watched the city with wide eyes. He had walked on roads before, begged strangers for coins, searched for food, but he had never seen the city from inside a car like this. It felt like another world. Nora kept glancing at him, making sure he was okay. Gabriel checked his phone again and again, calling the hospital ahead. "She needs immediate dialysis," the doctor on the phone said. "We'll prepare the machines." "Do everything necessary," Gabriel replied. Money is not an issue. Austin looked at him quietly. Daddy, can they make mommy better? No. No, mommy. No, mommy. No, mommy. No, mommy. No, mommy. No, mommy. No, mommy better. No. Gabriel felt tears sting his eyes again. He placed his hand gently on the boy's back. They will do everything to save her. I promise. Austin nodded slowly and leaned against Nora again. The convoy finally entered the hospital compound. It was a large, clean building with white walls and shiny floors. Nothing like the clinic they had left. Nurses rushed out to meet them as the ambulance parked near the entrance. Bring her in quickly, a doctor shouted. They wheeled Vivian inside. Every third. Gabriel walked close behind, his face pale, his heart hammering. Austin held Nora's hand tightly. When they reached the emergency room, the Branks emergency room, doctor stopped them. We need space to work. Only medical staff inside. Austin panicked. No. I want to stay with mommy. Nora knelt beside him. Austin, listen to me. They are going to help her. You must let them work. He shook his head fiercely. No. I want to stay. Gabriel crouched beside him and placed both hands on his small shoulders. My son, your mother needs you to be strong. She needs you to wait for her outside so the doctors can save her. Austin's lips trembled. Will she come back? Gabriel nodded slowly. She will. And I will be right here with you. I won't leave. Austin looked into Gabriel's eyes that looked like his own, and finally nodded. Nora pulled him into a hug as the doctors rushed Vivian inside and closed the door behind them. Gabriel stood still, staring at the door as if he could see through it. His heart felt heavy, but determined. He whispered, I lost her once. I will not lose her again. Nora held Austin close, whispering prayers under her breath. And behind the emergency room doors, Vivian's fight for life had begun. The hallway outside the emergency room felt colder than the rest of the hospital. The bright lights above flickered softly, and every second felt longer than the one before. Austin sat on a plastic chair, clutching Nora's hand with one hand and Gabriel's sleeve with the other. His small legs dangled, unable to touch the floor, and his eyes were locked on the closed doors where his mother was fighting for her life. Nora sat beside him, rubbing his back gently. Breathe, Austin, she whispered. Your mother is strong. Austin swallowed hard. What if she doesn't wake up? Gabriel knelt down in front of him, placing a firm hand on his knee. Don't think like that, my boy. Your mother has been fighting alone for years, but now she has all of us. She won't give up easily. Austin looked at him quietly. Daddy, you won't leave us, right? Gabriel's heart cracked open. He pulled Austin into his arms. Never. I promise you, I will never leave you again. Austin buried his face into Gabriel's chest. His small body trembled from fear and exhaustion. Gabriel held him tight, tears burning behind his eyes. He missed 6 years of his son's life. 6 years he could never get back. But he would not lose any more. Nora watched them with a soft smile. She had dreamed of someone stepping in to save Vivian and Austin, but she never imagined their savior would be the man Vivian once loved. Destiny had its own plans, she thought. She was just grateful she was part of their story. An hour passed. Then 2. Doctors rushed in and out, but none came to talk. The silence made everything harder. Nora tried to distract Austin by telling him small stories or pointing at the fish tank across the hall, but Austin's eyes always returned to the door. Gabriel stood most of the time, pacing slowly, rubbing his hands, together, praying silently. Finally, the emergency room door opened, and a doctor stepped out, removing his gloves. Austin jumped to his feet. Doctor, Mommy! The doctor crouched to his height and placed a gentle hand on Austin's shoulder. Your mother is a fighter, he said softly. She was very weak, but we managed to stabilize her. Austin felt his breath return. She will live? The doctor nodded. She is not out of danger yet, but she is strong enough for the next step. Gabriel stepped forward. What next step? She needs dialysis immediately. The doctor said. Gabriel step. 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 And after that, she will need a kidney transplant. Gabriel nodded. Do everything she needs. The doctor hesitated. Sir, the transplant process is expensive and requires a matching donor. It might take time. Gabriel didn't blink. Test me. Test anyone necessary. I'll pay for everything. Just save her. The doctor nodded quickly. We'll begin right away. Austin tugged Gabriel's sleeve. Daddy? Can we see her? The doctor shook his head gently. Not yet. She needs rest and a clean environment. But she is asking for someone. He looked at Austin. She kept whispering your name. Austin's eyes filled instantly. Mommy. Gabriel rubbed his hair. We will see her soon. The doctor left, and nurses began preparing the next steps. Gabriel sat on the floor beside Austin, leaning against the wall. Are you okay? He asked softly. Austin nodded, though tears spilled down his cheeks. I want her to come home. Gabriel held him close. She will. When she gets better, she will come home with us. To a real home. Not that broken building. That life ends today. Nora sat beside them, watching Gabriel with new eyes. He wasn't just a rich man. He wasn't just a lover from Vivian's past. He was someone who truly cared, someone ready to sacrifice everything. A nurse approached. Sir, we need to run tests for kidney matching. Gabriel stood up. Test me first. Austin looked up at him, confused. Daddy, what does that mean? Gabriel knelt down. Your mother needs a new kidney to live. It must match her blood and body. I am going to check if mine matches hers. Austin's eyes widened. You will give her one of yours? Gabriel nodded. When to place? In Ganda. 1-2 place. That's what fathers do. Austin suddenly hugged him again, squeezing him tightly. Nora felt tears roll down her cheeks. She wiped them quickly, not wanting to make the moment more emotional than it already was. Minutes later, nurses took Gabriel to the lab. Austin grabbed Nora's hand. Auntie, Daddy will save her. Right? Nora nodded. Yes. He will. He loves her. And he loves you. Austin leaned into her. I'm glad you helped us before he came. Nora smiled. I didn't know who you were. I just saw a boy who needed love. Austin whispered. You're like family too. The words warmed her heart more, deeply than she expected. After what felt like a lifetime, Gabriel returned. He looked exhausted but hopeful. The results will take a little time, he said. Austin nodded. His eyes searched Gabriel's face for answers. Gabriel sat beside him and took his hand. If I match, Gabriel said softly, I will give her my kidney. Anything to keep her alive. Austin squeezed his hand. Thank you. Nora sat across from them. And if you don't match? Gabriel looked at her with a firm expression. Then I will find someone who does. I will search hospitals, clinics, donors, everything. Vivian will not die. Nora believed him. She could see the fire in his eyes, a fire made of guilt, love, regret, and determination. Hours passed again. Austin slept on Nora's lap. Exhausted from crying, Gabriel stood beside the window, staring at the sky, whispering silent prayers. Then, finally, a doctor approached with a file in his hand. Gabriel turned sharply. Nora sat, upright. Austin woke up. The doctor took a breath. Sir, you are a perfect match. Austin gasped. His little hands flew to his mouth. Gabriel closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you." Nora broke into a relieved smile. The doctor continued, "We can prepare for the transplant soon. With this, she has a real chance." Austin ran to Gabriel and hugged him as tightly as his small arms allowed. "Daddy, you're going to save Mommy." Gabriel hugged him back, tears falling silently. "Yes, my boy. I will save her." Nora wiped her eyes again. She couldn't help it. The doors behind them opened, and nurses began preparing the rooms. Vivian had no idea yet. She had no idea the man she loved was about to give her the gift of life. She had no idea her son finally had a father. She had no idea this was the start of a new chapter. But she would soon. The storm had ended. The sun was rising, and their family was finally beginning to heal. Thank you for watching. Remember to subscribe to Cairo Tales for the next powerful story.